First of all, I'd like to say welcome to all the City Biz viewers. My name is Kevin Apperson. I'm the president of St. Francis Neighborhood Center, a wonderful nonprofit in Reservoir Hill neighborhood here in Baltimore. I'm going to be talking to Torbin Green, our executive director. And I first of all want to appreciate everyone sitting in and hearing this. And I think we're going to have a great conversation, Torbin.
Thank you.
All right, Torbin. First of all, can you give us a little bit about your background in with St. Francis and how you got to be executive director?
Sure. A little thing about my background is I was working at Sylvan Learning Center as one of their operations managers, and I was invited to volunteer over at St. Francis Neighborhood Center. And what happened is I fell in love with what I saw. And a few months later, a position opened up, and I applied for it. And by the will of God, I ended up getting that position. So that sort of started me, 11 years ago with, working with 13 kids who had IEPs in a little room, basically thrown into the room with these youth that, quite frankly, just needed to be loved, needed attention. And it was quite the experience because I felt like I was thrown into the fire.
Mm-hmm. Great. Can you tell us a little bit about what St. Francis means to you?
Absolutely. St. Francis means a ton to me because of the neighborhood. It's one of those few neighborhoods that when you're walking down the street, they'll look you in your eyes and say hello. I find that quite rare in neighborhoods. They look after each other. And of course, they look up to St. Francis because we're considered a safe spot in that area. So just working with and working for the community itself, that makes me very happy.
I think you talked a little bit about it, but what does St. Francis mean to this community?
Yeah, so St. Francis means a lot to the community itself because they, like I said before, they know it's a safe spot. There's always resources available for them. They know that we're there for them when there is a need or an emergency need. So, we are that spot in the area, in the neighborhood that everyone knows and cares about.
St. Francis has been around for 60 years. Well, why do you think it's survived this long and being able to support this community?
I think part of the reason why St. Francis has survived and it has been around for 60 years, in part would be the board. We've always had a really strong board that supports the executive directors. I would say the executive directors that have ran St. Francis, the originator, which would be Father Tom Composto, promised he would stay in the neighborhood. And he did until he passed away. So I would say that the commitment that we have for the neighborhood is one reason why we're around for 60 years and more.
What are some of the really exciting initiatives that the St. Francis Neighborhood Center is embarking over the next year or two?
Yeah, so continuing, we have our Power Project, which is our after-school program. It's super high quality, and everyone looks up to that. We have a waiting list every year for it. So that's one of our main programs, but we have some other initiatives where we're partnering with Women's Housing Coalition, providing 15 homes for people who happen to be homeless, families who happen to be homeless. We have senior socials where we're interacting with the seniors in our neighborhood, which I think that's very important to have that intergenerational communication going on. And of course, our partnerships throughout the community, whether it's Friends of German Park, which is the local park adjacent to St. Francis, having that being maintained and monitored has been a big help for the community, and it shows.
Mm-hmm. I know, Torbin, you've worn many hats here at St. Francis. Which of all the experiences you have would you consider the most rewarding?
The most rewarding of the many hats that I've worn at St. Francis, I would say once I became the operations director, being able to basically work and manage of all these different things going on at the center, whether it's the programs, whether it's facilities, whether it's bringing in partners, whether it's communicating with the schools. It was really nice to be a part of that and have that responsibility. It made my job very flexible, and I was able to do a variety of things.
When you look at your career here, what has been some of the greatest challenges you faced?
I would say the greatest challenges I faced would be the capital campaign, the first one. That was definitely a challenge. No one thought we could raise that amount of money, even with the setbacks that we've had. That was definitely one big challenge. And I would say the other big challenge was stepping into the role of executive director. That was a big change in the way I operated. Losing some hats, but bringing some more hats on is really difficult, but yet rewarding in the end.
Mm-hmm. I want to remind you of one other challenge, which I saw you took on and really met, was around COVID. That was a huge impact on the center, just like on many other communities.
Yes, so COVID was very challenging. With COVID, it took us about 15 days to adjust, and we continued having programming in which the schools were closed. People didn't know what to do. We ended up having everything ready. We had laptops ready. We had food being delivered. I personally were delivering food and laptops to families and youth during COVID. So program-wise, we only lost 15 days, and we carried on.
What is the biggest source of inspiration for you with is working in St. Francis?
The biggest inspiration for me is twofold. One is being able to see the kids throughout the years, like go through our programs year to year, seeing them grow up and become, from being in fifth grade, going into college now, just seeing the kids grow up and become young adults. That's one part of that I really like. And the other is just the way the community reacts to what we do. We basically work for the community, and, having the resources to help the community, that makes me very happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you start thinking about the future, where do you see the center in 10 years, 10 to 15 years from now?
So in about 10 to 15 years, I see the center basically being the program in the city that everyone looks at. I see us being in another area. Because right now we're just located in Reservoir Hill, but I can easily see us being put in Penn North and starting up another St. Francis over there, kind of mirroring or copying the service and stuff that we do in Reservoir Hill and bringing it over there. And of course, I can see us just bringing in more programs and resources that I believe that the community itself tells me that they need.
I got one more question for you. What's the thing at St. Francis that gives you the most satisfaction when you come home at night and you think about everything that you've accomplished, everything that we've done, everything we're planning? What's the thing that gives you the most satisfaction?
For me, that gives me the most satisfaction is just looking at that area and seeing how it's changed over the years with St. Francis. Walking down the street, seeing that trash is being picked up, seeing certain things in the neighborhood just improving. That is one thing I like to take with me whenever I leave from the center to go home or just in my thoughts.
And with that, I just want to say thank you, Torbin, for all that you've done to support this community. It's a better community because of the work of St. Francis and because of what you've done in the past years that you've been working here. So thank you very much. Also want to thank the audience. I really appreciate you guys giving us an opportunity to share the story of St. Francis.
Thank you.